Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to see how to extract values from a column where each row contains multiple key value pairs. You can think of it as a very simple version of JSON format or JavaScript object notation, and in this case our structure is very basic. Normally in a real-world dataset, JSONs are usually much more complex than this, and using formulas to extract values from JSON will be very difficult or even impossible. And therefore, in practice, normally dedicated JSON parsers are being used. But as mentioned, our dataset is relatively simple, so we'll try to do this with Excel functions. So let's say that I want to extract all the last names here from this column. And the first thing that I would like to do is I would like to create this string here, because this is the key for the last name. So I would like to create a string last name that also includes the double quotes, the first and the second double quotes obviously, and even the colon here. So to insert a double quote with a formula, one way to do it is to type the double quote 4 times. However, if I now use this approach and then concatenate this with the string last name and then another 4 times double quotes, then the formula already will become a little bit difficult to understand. So therefore, I prefer to use the char function, and here I'll simply pass 34 because this is the code for double quotes. So now I can concatenate this with the string last name, and then I can concatenate this again with char 34, and I mentioned that I also want to include the colon here, so I'm going to concatenate this also with a colon. And now I can use the TEXTAFTER function in order to get everything from this position until the end. So if I write here text after, the text will be cell A2, and this is going to be my delimiter argument. So if I now click F9, we can see that we have been able to get everything from the last name until the end of the string. Now, in order to get only the last name, I'm tempted to use this comma here. However, I want the formula that I write to be dynamic in a way that if I change last name with, let's say, active, in this case to return me true. And here I don't have a comma in the end. So this approach will not be working. Therefore, I will use the TEXTBEFORE function and pass in the TEXTBEFORE function this second double quote here, and it should return double quote Morgan. So Control Z, and I'm going to write here TEXTBEFORE. This is going to be the text argument. The delimiter will be char 34, and here I will pass the instance number 2. So if I now click F9, we can see that it returns double quote Morgan. And now I can get rid of this double quotes in many ways. Probably the easiest solution will be to use substitute, and this is going to be the text that we're substituting, and the old text will once again be char 34, and the new text will be nothing. So if I now click enter, we can see that we have Morgan here, and if I click F9 to ensure that there aren't any spaces, the result looks good. So I can click enter and it returns Morgan, and if I want this to work also for emails, then I can simply replace here last name with email, and it should also work. So this is using the TEXTAFTER and TEXTBEFORE functions. This was the easier solution. However, this is the problem that TEXTAFTER and TEXTBEFORE functions are only available in modern versions of Excel. So if you're using some older version of Excel, then you will have to do this in the old-fashioned way. And I'm going to try to do it on my own, but I will mention now that the formula will be quite long, not that easy to write, easy to make mistake, and not that user friendly for beginners in Excel. But let's attempt it. And once again, I would like to create this string to concatenate the double quotes with last name, including the colon. So car34, and I'm going to concatenate this with last name. One more time, car34 and double quotes. Now I would like to get the position of the string. So I'm going to nest this in the search function, and I'll be looking for this string in cell A2, starting from the first position. And it returns 29. So it says that this comma before the letter L here is on the 29th position. However, I would like to get to the end of the string, to the end of this last name here. And to do this, I can copy this part. So I'm gonna click here on the find text argument and click Ctrl C. And here I will add to this the len function and pass the string. And now it returns 40, which practically means that this double quote here before the letter M should be on the 40th position. And to prove this, I can use the mid function here in another cell and check what is the text will be A2, the start number will be 40, and if I want, let's say, 2 characters, I expect that it should return the double quote and the M. So if I click enter, that's exactly what it's returning. So now I would like to get only the right part of the string. And to do this, I can use the write function. The text will be A2. And how many characters I want? I want the len from the entire length of the string. I would like to cut that many characters, and I should put this in parentheses. So if I click enter now and click F9, we can see that we have been able to cut most of the string. And now we need to look again for that double quote here in the string. So Ctrl Z, and I'm going to write here search. I'll be searching for character, once again 34, or a double quote. I'm going to be searching in this text and starting from the first character. And it returns 7. And I think that's correct, because the double quote after the word Morgan, or the last name Morgan, is on the 7th position. So now I can use the left function and get 7 minus 1 characters. So to do this, I'm going to write left. The text will be this text here. So I will click here in within text and click Ctrl C and paste it here in the beginning of the left function. And the number of characters will be this part here, -1. And I will click enter, and I will be praying that it works. So if I now click F9, I think it is correct. And if I check that it works also for email, I guess I should replace last name everywhere. So maybe I will not do it, but I'm sure that it works. So yeah, just out of curiosity, I want to check how many characters we have in this formula. And to do this, we can use the formula text and pass here C2 and then nest this in the len function. And it returns 235 characters. So as mentioned, it's a long and not very beautiful formula. And I'm sure that there are probably easier solutions. I'm far from thinking that what I'm showing in this channel is the best approach, but I think it works. And in the next video, we're going to use VBA to create our user-defined function to extract the values that we need. It's not going to be a very short one, but I think it's going to be a lot easier to read and understand. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.